The Denver Broncos might have the single worst salary situation in the entirety of the NFL. Russell Wilson was a nightmare last year, and this Broncos team is in a rough spot, though it does have some young players that are certainly promising. So, for my first franchise on Madden 24 this year, I really wanted to not pick a team that was fully rebuilding, but pick a team that was kind of in between. Team that might be able to be competitive right now. As I'm recording this, the Broncos actually just lost to my Patriots last night, which put a sharp dagger into their playoff chances. Though there is still a chance, they are 7-8, which I think is a little bit better than a lot of people thought they would be this year. But anyways, what's up and welcome to our first franchise mode on Madden 24. It's going to be the Denver Broncos if you haven't figured out already. And let's jump right in. We're going to look at the roster in this first episode, go over some stuff. And then episode 2 will be training camp and preseason. But we're going to jump right in and look at the roster, see what we got to deal with here in Denver. I know kind of what we're dealing with, and it's probably, my choice is probably going to be to kind of rebuild the full team. But all right, let's take a look at this roster. At quarterback, we have Russell Wilson, 34 years old, fresh off of maybe one of his worst seasons, if not his worst season as a professional quarterback. This is a potential future Hall of Famer who's been to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. So it was surprising to see him play as poorly as he did last season. He's a guy who we can keep around for now, but because of how Madden works with regression, he is definitely not the future quarterback. As a Patriots fan, I can tell you that Jared Stidham is also not the answer at quarterback. Though he's not a terrible, I take that back. He is a terrible backup. And then Ben DiNucci is as great as the memes around him are. Also not going to be a guy who figures into our future at quarterback. So quarterback's probably a position where we got to look to upgrade in the future. Running back, we do have Javonte Williams, who I like quite a bit. He's 23. And he's already an 83 overall, second-year player out of North Carolina with Star Dev. He's a true 82 overall. Good power back. I really like Javonte Williams. Samaje Perine not a bad pass-catching back. And then we have a couple of younger guys, Tyler Beatty and then Tony Jones Jr., who is a little bit older. These guys probably don't figure in, but I like Javonte Williams a lot. I want to make him kind of a key on this team at running back. Fullback doesn't really matter in the way I run schemes. Wide receiver is kind of interesting. We have Jerry Jeudy, who has star development. He's 24. They gave him an 83. He's kind of had a rough year in real life. A guy who I was super high on coming out of the draft at Alabama. Really, really good player. Unfortunately, hasn't really lived up to those expectations in his beginning of his career in Denver. But certainly a guy we are going to look to build around on the wide receiver core because he'll still continue to get better for a number of years. Courtland Sutton, who I actually think is significantly better than Jerry Jeudy in real life. Tim Patrick, also not really a long-term guy here. KJ Hamler. Marvin Mims is a good kick returner. And does he have... he does have hidden development. So he's a guy who will look to get some playing time here early on, see if we can develop him into anything. Not sure if he'll turn into anything, but worth a try. And not much else at receiver. Tight end, not a ton here. I'm gonna mess this name up. Greg Dulcich. We'll say Dulcich. Star development at 23. I know of him obviously, watching a little bit of football. Out of UCLA, 23 years old, which is nice. He's young. He does have star development, which will allow him to progress faster. But he's probably not a true star tight end in the future. And I really like to have a good tight end when we get later on into the season, especially when I have a quarterback who I really like. Adam Troutman and Chris Mannertz are very little. I actually can pronounce this name. This is Albert Okwuegbunam. He is a third-year player, I think. Yeah, third year. It says it right on the screen. He was actually a guy who I really liked coming out of Missouri. If you want a good laugh, go look up the video of him getting drafted. The announcers butcher his name terribly. I think he might have been a fourth round pick. He was super like combine test guy. You see his 88 speed. He was really fast, athletic guy. But yeah, not much in Madden and won't really do much. Neither will this 33 overall tight end. I can tell you that for free. Offensive line's interesting. We have Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles is a little bit older, but he's still good. I believe he still has his star development. He does. So he will be fine for now. Will start to regress eventually. We'll need to replace that at some point, but that's not an immediate issue. Ben Powers I really like. He only has normal development, which I think is interesting because he's a pretty good player. A really good pass blocker, as you can see in this game. So yeah, he's got 85 pass blocking. That actually probably could be a little bit higher. But he's really good. Should be able to stay at that left guard position for a while. No reason to think about needing a replacement for him. Would love it if he had better than normal development, but he should be fine. Center, we don't have much. Lloyd Cushenberry is not it at center. He's not a guy who I think is going to be a mainstay on this team by any means. So center will be a position where we try and upgrade at some point. Right guard, Quinn Miners is pretty good. He has star development out of Wisconsin Whitewater. There's a fun school that you don't see very often. He's kind of the opposite of Powers in that he's not a good pass blocker at all. You see 72 pass block. Is very strong, though, can run block quite well. That's why the Broncos tend to run a lot to the right side behind Miners. Again, I feel about him about the same way I feel about Powers. You know, we can leave him there for the entirety of the franchise if we want. He's solid. He'll continue to develop. He has star dev, though, so he'll probably get a little bit better than Powers, though he has a few overalls less. He is a little younger, too. And then at right tackle, Mike McGlinchey, another super high draft pick, actually by the 49ers. This was the year that the Notre Dame offensive linemen, you had Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey, were both top 10 picks, I believe. And McGlinchey hasn't really turned out to be the superstar tackle, but he's a good player. 80 overall, he's similar to Miners in that he's not the greatest pass blocker, but an unbelievable run blocker for a tackle. Again, talking about running to the right side, Denver does it a lot. That's a big reason why. Offensive linemen don't regress like other positions in Madden, so I think he'll probably stay good for a little while longer. I'm not too worried about McGlinchey, though in a couple of years he may be someone who we need to replace. Let's take a look at our defense, too. No one at left end who I see having any real impact in the future. Right end, Zach Allen's not bad. Fourth-year guy out of Boston College. Does have star development. He's solid enough to play on the edge for right now. Have no problem with him as a starting end. D-tackle, we don't have much. DJ Jones isn't great. Mike Purcell's not great. They're all getting older. So D-line outside of Allen is definitely something we need to address. At outside linebacker, we do have Randy Gregory. Played on the Cowboys for a long time. Has moved now to Denver. Does have star development. He's a pass rusher at outside linebacker. We have to decide at some point what kind of defense we want to play. If we want to do a 4-3 with pass rushing ends, or if we want to do a 3-4 with pass rushing outside linebackers. Gregory definitely is a pass rusher. Not a ton behind him, and he's getting older. He will start to regress as a linebacker at 30 years old. In the middle, we have Josie Jewell, who's not bad. Same with Alex Singleton. They are both older, however. Drew Sanders, who was a rookie out of Arkansas from this year, does have hidden development. So a guy who we might try and get some snaps to early on in the year. Certainly he'll pop up over Jonas Griffith to be our third middle linebacker. Singleton and Jewell not bad. I believe they both are normal development guys. Singleton might have star. Let's see here. Nope, they're both normal development guys. So both guys who are going to regress right away. So linebacker seems like it is still a need. Frank Clark fits into that category as well. Older guy, solid player, has been a good player for a while out of Michigan. Baron Browning is a guy who I like. Star development, again, kind of a pure pass rusher. at outside linebacker. 76 power moves is something I like with him, and his speed's pretty good. Finesse moves aren't great, but they can get better. Baron Browning's a solid outside linebacker, again as a pass rusher, but he's really all we have for younger linebackers, I guess with the exception of Sanders. But Sanders more of a pass coverage guy, Browning more of a pass rusher guy. Neither of them are super high overall. Neither of them will probably get to that high of an overall, but they're both okay players to build for the future. Corner might be the best position on our team. It's certainly where we have our best player. Patrick Surtain, the second recent draft pick. What was he, 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago out of Alabama. This guy's a stud. He does everything well. You can see that by his ratings. Man and zone, both excellent. He is a true number one shutdown corner. Has superstar X factor. He's going to be one of the franchise players for this team for quite a while. K'Waun Williams is getting older. He's not terrible as like a third or fourth corner, but we're going to have to play him as a second corner, which I don't love. Damari Mathis, not bad, 72 overall. Does have normal development, which kind of sucks. Riley Moss he's a rookie out of Iowa. Another normal development guy. They're decent. These guys will develop kind of into what K'Waun Williams is, but nothing significantly better than that. So outside of Surtain, we do have a need at corner. Free safety is another one of our positions where we're in good shape. Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties in football. He is 29, so he will probably start to regress at some point soon, but he's a high enough overall, and with his superstar development, he's going to be a good player for a number of years. I'm not too worried about Justin Simmons. Caden Stearns is not bad as a backup. What is just an interest? What does Caden Stearns look like as like a man cover guy? Oh, he has no man. He has no zone coverage either. This guy's more of a strong safety, honestly. His stats aren't particularly great. I actually think he's a slightly better player than they rate him in this game. But at 73 overall, he's fine as a backup safety to Justin Simmons. Strong safety, we have Kareem Jackson, who's very old. 35 is just getting up there in Madden. He is going to regress very quickly, especially because he doesn't have star development or higher to help him out with that. So Kareem Jackson is a guy who we'll have to replace. And then kicking game, Brett Maher's fine. Older, though. I always try and sign a young kicker and a young punter. Riley Dixon, same boat. I'll always try and sign, someone a little bit younger to kind of fill those positions so we don't have to worry about it. Here is one of the issues that you will run into with the Denver Broncos, and thankfully, we do actually have our first-round pick this year. We do not have our second, which is going to be a bit of an issue. And then after that, we're okay. We don't have our sixth the following year, but that's not a huge deal. Not having our second this year is annoying, especially as a team that's going to want to build up as a young team. So we'll have to kind of manage that how we can. Obviously, this is a team that will probably try and compete this year, and then after this year, we'll start to move on from guys and start to get younger. This feels like a team where we'll try and sneak into the playoffs this year, which is kind of what the Broncos are doing in real life. And then after this year, we can kind of blow it up and get a ton of younger players in. We can use the draft at the end of this season to really build up a group of young talent, trade away a couple guys at the end of the season for draft picks. And if we're at the midseason mark and don't look like we're going to make the playoffs, we can make those trades earlier as well and kind of tank the rest of the year. But I think that's going to be the plan for now. Episode 2, we'll just do training camp, and we'll play, we'll play all of the training camp mini games, and then we'll simulate through preseason. I don't like to play preseason games, but I'll kind of give you guys the stats on each preseason game so you know how the players do. But yeah, for now, that's going to be it for episode 1. Hopefully, we can get this Broncos team at least back to the playoffs with Russell Wilson. We'll let Russ cook for one more year, but he certainly will be being moved on from. I'm also not super excited about the division that we're in because the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and the Chargers tend to sim well in Madden, even though they're not great in real life this year. They do have a lot of talent on that team. and Justin Herbert is pretty crazy in Madden. But yeah, for now, that'll do it. I'll see you guys for episode number 2. See if we can get any development trait upgrades in training camp. They're rare, but they would be nice for a couple of our younger guys. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the second episode.